Hi guys, you're listening to Generation Z and I'm Katie. This episode we're asking, is it still okay to listen to Micheal Jackson's music? In late January of this year, HBO released a documentary called Leaving Neverland. The two-part documentary was watched by 1.5 million viewers and followed the allegations of James Safechuck and Wayne Robson. The men claim that Micheal Jackson sexually assaulted them as children, and since the documentary there has been a massive divide in opinions. BBC Two have recently dropped Micheal Jackson's music since the documentary's release, and there is now an ongoing debate over whether we should be listening to his music or not. I'm joined by two media students, Sky Fraser and Jess Bassett. Jess, you seem to think that we shouldn't be listening to Micheal Jackson's music. Can you tell me a bit more about that and why you think that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's hard because myself, I am a Micheal Jackson, I was a Micheal Jackson fan. I think his music's amazing. And I remember Don't Blame It on the Boogie was the first record my mum ever bought, and it's always been played in the house. But I just think it is uncomfortable, especially for a big radio station to broadcast it for everybody to hear. If you're just listening to that on your way to work, you don't know what's going to come on. It is uncomfortable if, someone that says so much speculation whether he's literally abused children. It's just not, it would just make you feel uncomfortable. And I don't blame radio stations for just removing themselves from that and not wanting to take the risk.
Would you say that you believe the documentary then? So you do think he's guilty?
Yeah, I think there's no smoke without fire, and there's so much smoke. There's so much. And even when he was alive, I know a lot of people say he can't back himself up, but even when he was alive, he had so many chances to, there were so many actual trials in court. And I just think you don't do that unless there is something going on. You can't, I know he had his childhood stripped away from him, and that's why he's very childlike throughout all his adult life. But at some point you have to he is the grown man and these are the kids. It's his responsibility to understand, as a public figure as well, or just in general, it's not okay to have a child sleeping in your bed with you at that age.
Yeah,
it's not okay.
Sky, what you think we should still be listening to his music. Can you elaborate on that a bit more? Kind of what would you say to Jess's?
Because I'm a strong believer in the court where you should be innocent until you're proven guilty with solid proof, because no matter how many people think he's done it, he may not have actually done anything bad with his good intentions. But I think it's unfair to stop playing all his music and everything without solid proof that he's actually done something.
Do you not think though that there's so many trials in court and everything, when you come down to it, if there's the only factual evidence is things like DNA tests and things like that, so many situations where that's just not available, that evidence just isn't available, especially not from the past and back then. That's not to say that for the victims themselves and the other children, just I don't know, it's not to say that their voices can't be heard, because it's not just the fact that these people came out and said that they sexually abused him. He's just grooming children all the time, spending time with them, making these children love him so much and thinking that they can't live without him. That itself isn't right. And although that isn't a crime and you can't, evidence or no evidence, you can't put that down and put him in jail for that, it doesn't make it okay.
There's no laws on the things. It's pretty much he was just trying to look after them though, because he might have had good intentions and said, because he had a shit childhood, he might have just been wanting to try to do his best to make as many kids as possible enjoy their childhood. Do you know what I mean? And no matter it's because he's so famous, there's always going to be someone that's going to try and bring him down. No matter what you do, no matter how rich you get, no matter how famous you are, there's always going to be people that will just be jealous and then they'll try and piss in your parade, sort of thing. So if he wasn't as famous, he probably wouldn't have been in this sort of situation, if you know what I mean. But because he's labelled the biggest pop star in history, there's always going to be people that think, right, let's think of a way to ruin it.
I mean, there's no doubt about it, because whether he's guilty or not, he is embedded in music history. He is one of, if not the biggest pop star ever. And this is kind of a question for both of you. Even if he is guilty, do you still think that we should stop listening to his music? Do you think, I've got a list here of actors and stuff that have been accused of crime, sexual assault, even murder, and we still watch their films and we still listen to their music. Do you think that it's our responsibility to stop if it comes out that he is guilty? Or what's your opinion on that, both of you?
It's hard to say, really, because it's the fact, do you ignore the fact and keep treat it as two different things, treat his music completely different to his personal life?
So would you say his music is separate to him as a person?
Sort of isn't, it sort of isn't. The music's what's made him who he is, but then again, you can't take away that he was a great performer, musician, things like that. But then again, if you're going to base it on just one thing that's in his personal life, it's you got to appreciate good music for good music, if you know what I mean.
So you would strip the music from the person, kind of have it as the songs on their own?
Well, I think it'd be unfair if you think of all the other artists in the world. So Jay Huss,
as well, the people that have worked on his.
There's a rapper, Jay Huss, he's just come out of prison for carrying a knife, and as soon as he gets out of prison, Drake brings him out on stage in the O2. So
but do you not think there's a difference between carrying a knife and sexually abusing children?
It's just promoting
I have Woody Allen was accused of sexual assault. So was Kevin Spacey, Dustin Hoffman. Even people like Snoop Dogg and stuff have been in prison, and we still continue to listen to their music and watch their films.
But those names aren't nearly as big, so it's not as mainstream. So there's not going to be as many people trying to bring him down, sort of thing.
Do you think that's kind of what more of this is? People trying to bring him down more than?
Unless there's solid proof, yeah. I know there's it looks like he has been like that, but you need solid evidence to actually prove it against someone.
I think it is kind of a personal thing whether you feel comfortable still listening to his music or not. I think in terms of your question, if he is guilty, like Sky said, it is kind of you have to think, is him and his music one, or is his personality and the songs that he produces separate? That's I think that's a whole nother debate, but I think it's not wrong for big corporate radio stations like Radio 2 and things like that to be watching their own backs and taking a stand and thinking, do you know what, we're not going to play his music. It's a difficult one because I'm surprised that they have done that after there has been no proof. That's a big decision. You'd think that would be something they do if he was proven guilty.
Influence?
There's going to be backlash either way, isn't there? So.
But I think that I also kind of think it's good because I think, like I said, there is no smoke without fire. There's so much speculation, and even though you can't take him to court and you might not be able to give him a sentence for the things that he did, they're still wrong. Grooming children and putting persuading a child that it's okay and it's normal for a little child to be sleeping with a grown man in the same bed that you don't know that well, that's wrong. And I think that the fact that that's come out and he even admitted to that, and a radio station has thought, you know what, that's wrong, we know that's wrong and we don't support that, I think that's great. But I personally, it's really difficult. I enjoy his music, I do. When it comes on, you do want to sing along, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me feel uncomfortable and almost guilty.
I think a lot of people have said, since watching the documentary, they use clips of the music videos, and I think they might even use a couple of the songs in the documentary, and I think a lot of people have said that they find now they attach the songs to those images, whether that's right or wrong, because that's obviously from the documentary, not actual evidence. I mean, a lot of people have also said that the documentary is quite one-sided, so I think we have to obviously take it with a pinch of salt. But do you think that Micheal Jackson and not using his music and stuff, especially for victims of sexual assault, do you think that this kind of whole case sets a moral kind of compass of what we should be doing? Because if we do remove his music from the radio station, it's kind of saying, no, we do believe victims. But then I guess at the same time, it's kind of, it could be. It's
one of them things that's never going to be settled, though, because you can't settle it. Now he's not alive. And then the people didn't speak out beforehand. So they left it so long that it's been in the past so much. And then he's changed the lives for people for better as well with his music. So it's 50-50. He's done good and bad if he has it at all. But then again, there are people that back him up, like his one of his previous bodyguards. He said there's no way he'd ever any intentions like that. Maybe his intentions was just to be a child carer, date nannies and things like that, and foster homes, they're always looking after kids and probably sleep with them and things like that next to them. Like, people wouldn't bat an eyelid, you know what I mean?
I think it's important to not let the good outweigh the bad and come to this neutral ground. I think it doesn't matter how much charity work you've done or how... I mean, he has done amazing things for kids. He's given to charities. He's looked after kids. He's made them happy, but he's also manipulated them through those things as well. Those are the gateways that he used to get into, you know, emotional levels of children that shouldn't even be developed yet at the ages that they were at. So he was using his power in a good way, but in the exact same way he was abusing it. And I think because he's done these good things, it doesn't make it okay that he's done bad. And I think, like, it's important to remember that. But I also I understand he can't defend himself because he's not here, and that is why it's a difficult situation. It is a shame that those victims felt like they couldn't speak up until he was kind of dead. That's a shame. But I also feel like there were trials, there were court sentences, do you know what I mean? And
I think it's hard for the radio station to use it as an example, though, because it's completely different. Like, someone who's done this exact same thing that's not famous would be treated like on another level, do you know what I mean? So just because he's famous, it makes it a whole different ball game for them. Like, do we play the music, do we not? Because they can't, like, use it, say, oh, we're not going to do this to support the victims, but then again, people that aren't famous would get treated so much differently to him, so it's, like, hard to use him as a role model sort of thing, or an example.
I think much like everything else in the world right now, though, it's never too late, even if we haven't done it in the past, like for those other celebrities that you mentioned. I mean, there's an ongoing debate on whether we should listen to Chris Brown's music, because there's literal evidence that he beat up Rihanna whilst they're in a relationship and things like that, and people still play his music, and his music is still played on the radio, and that's when you're kind of like, oh. But I think it's never too late to actually think, right, do you know what? This is 2019 and this is now how we're going to deal with things like that.
Yeah.
So now when things like that come out, you're not getting your music played anymore. And that's that. So,
do you think that this case will make artists and even just celebrities in general more cautious and more careful of how they actually behave in the public eye?
I think
it... There's the R. Kelly case as well recently.
Yeah, true.
That's been quite big in the news. I
think it will, but I think it shouldn't. They should want to do it anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like,
they shouldn't be. They shouldn't from now on. It should
it should
from
be.
The start.
But I understand that as when you're, it's not right. But when you're a celebrity and you have so much power and you have people throwing themselves at you all the time, that you kind of do think it's okay that you do see people and the general public as objects. Like,
becomes acceptable.
I can see why that would happen. It's not okay, and I personally obviously wouldn't do it, but I can see why for some people it happens. And I would like to think that things like this do make you wake up and think you can't get away with things like that. And if you think that you can treat the general public like shit, then you're not going to have a career. So I don't think, that's why I do agree with the fact that his music isn't being played.
Well, I think you both make a really good point. I think this is a case that's not going to be resolved anytime soon. It's something that people have really mixed opinions on. I think in terms of music, it is kind of a personal choice of how you take the documentary and how you take the whole case in general. But that's it for this episode, and thanks for listening, guys.